this was me back in 2012, and there was a lot of things that were going on. Number one, I personally thought that I was just aging. I literally thought that, hey, it's normal. I'm getting older, so, lack of energy. I was starting to gain weight. I had a beer belly, which, to me, it made sense because I was a home brewer, meaning, as a home brewer, especially because I was teaching how to brew beer, I was drinking a lot of beer and I had a lot of beer, readily available at home. And that was basically what I thought was causing that beer belly, to the point where my belly was starting to hang over my belt. I was like, I think I was 28 at this time. And I was basically just thinking like, okay, like this is normal, right? Like for me, it just makes sense. Like there's really nothing for me to worry about. So I basically, started to experience other things though. And it got to a point where all these signs of aging started to basically speed up, where I started to age faster and faster. My eyes started to develop heavy eye bags and dark circles around my eyes. My skin started getting dry, and then it got to a point where I was getting, extreme, fatigue. And what I think really made me concerned more than anything was, between growing a beer belly and I started to lose hair in massive quantities. I was in the shower, I was just lathering my hair normal, and I just felt this texture in my hands. I opened up my eyes and I looked and I saw a bunch of hair on my hands, on the bathtub, shower curtain, basically everywhere. And this is where, on one hand, I'm thinking, okay, there's something wrong with me. Like, I don't know what it is. I just know that I don't feel right. I basically felt like, hey, there's something wrong. Something's just not right. Not to mention that on the inside, I'm thinking it's like, man, like I'm out of shape. I don't think any girl's gonna really like me if I'm growing a huge belly, if I'm basically going bald, and I don't even have enough energy to get off the couch, right? Like that doesn't sound like a very appealing mate. But not only that, since I also started to get horrible brain fog, I was essentially at a point in my life where, I've been an entrepreneur basically since I got out of the Navy in 2007, and this is right in 2012. So I hadn't had a job in, 5 years, but because I had brain fog, I couldn't really run my business, and I was seriously afraid that I wasn't going to be able to provide for myself or provide for my family. And so this was really kind of like that catalyst. It was really, I guess, something that needed to happen for me to look at my health and be like, okay, I need to take some time off from everything else that's going on in my life, and I need to really, really focus on getting my health back, take control of my health. This was really like what got me started on my journey. Here's what began to happen. So this is 2012, and from here, I basically went to, start talking to, different, doctors, endocrinologists, and different things like that. And essentially what happened at first was that I was put into what I called, this little box where I am here. And what I was told was that there was really nothing that I could do about low thyroid. The only thing that I could possibly do was basically supplement for the rest of my life. Here's, I guess, what I think is the biggest issue with this kind of mindset, and here's the thing, like I almost believed this in the very beginning. I like almost seriously believed it, because at this time I didn't know really much about health, or a lot of things that I know now. But there was a point in time where I thought, okay, this may not be so bad, because I can possibly just take a pill and then I'll be able to continue to eat whatever I want, because at the time I was literally eating whatever I wanted. I had no idea what food was doing to me. I did not have any kind of understanding, the way that I do now. And so for me, I just thought like, this sounds like, okay, like, it may be all right. It may just be something that I have to do. And, I was almost about to chalk it up to basically aging and, poor genetics and, whatever you will. This was also around the time that I still wanted to essentially fix some issues that I felt like, hey, maybe I can't get rid of this condition, but there's got to be something that I can do, because at the time I had a lot of digestive issues. And this is really what actually opened the door and started to open up my eyes to a lot of things that really led me to where I am at today. And this process, from 2012 to where I am at today, it's almost like I was here in this little box, and as I started to learn, my little box started to expand and realized that the solutions that I was looking for were outside of this little box that I was in when I first started. And so part of me sharing my journey and sharing a lot of the training and information that I'm sharing with you today is to help you see how I expanded this and how I went from, this false belief that there was nothing that I could do about my health to where, I'm able to, I've been able to stay lean. I have more energy than I did before. Even in my 20s, my hair's no longer falling off. My brain fog has been cleared. There's a lot of things that I've been able to experience that I've been able to improve. And although I'm still on a journey to better health, I am definitely way better than where I was when I first started. And so I want to walk you through, more or less how focusing on my digestive issues was the first domino, that tip that led me to understand what was really going on inside of me. And so one of the first things that helped me out was, when I was experiencing digestive issues, meaning I was not able to digest food properly, and especially protein was one of the ones that I was not able to digest. And so here I was basically eating protein, and it would go down into my gut, but then I will feel all kinds of like bubbles and things, going on here, and it was just not breaking down. Now, as a home brewer, one of the things that I understood about protein was that, hey, there are different enzymes that break down protein. And so my first thought was like, well, if I'm not digesting protein, maybe I need enzymes. And so I knew that pineapple and papaya have protein digestive enzymes, right? Bromelain and papain are the ones that are in these fruits. And so what I started to do was whenever I ate any kind of like protein, whether it was chicken, beef, fish, or, whatever, I would eat pineapple and papaya soon after, or I would basically make a smoothie where I'll blend pineapple, papaya, maybe some orange juice using fresh squeezed, oranges. And I've started to find that, hey, my protein was actually digesting better, and that actually started to make me feel better. It was actually one of the first times that I started to feel better, but this was not really fixing the big issue. And here's where I started to find out, it's like, because I already had digestive problems, really what was going on that was like the bigger issue was that I basically had a weak immune system. And so one of the things that I understood here is that 80% of your immune system is basically your gut flora. And to make this simple to understand, there's really two categories of flora. There's bad flora, and then there's good flora. There's basically probiotics. You want to have more probiotics, and you want to have less bad bacteria. A weak immune system basically means that you're lacking good probiotics, good bacteria, or you have an increased amount of bad bacteria. That's the simplest way to really think about it. Now, once I started to find this out, one of the things that I started to understand was that, okay, if I have a weak immune system, that's the reason why I'm not digesting food properly. It's because I don't have the bacteria that's actually digesting the foods that I'm getting, that I'm eating. So I could be eating healthy foods, I could be eating organic, I could be eating, salads, I would be eating salads and I was still experiencing bubbling, gas, bloating, and all these things. And it was because I didn't have enough good bacteria. And that's basically where I realized that I had a weak immune system. And initially, once I started to understand this, it was one of the first times that my brewing knowledge just kind of kicked in. And I realized that, okay, if I have bad bacteria, one of the things that I had was basically yeast overgrowth, yeast candida. And for me, it came mostly because I was drinking, a lot of beer and eating a lot of sweets. I used to have a sweet tooth, and to this day, like, I still enjoy sweets. Like, I am a foodie. One of my biggest struggles was that I wanted to get my energy back, but I didn't really want to give up food or beer, right? So I really had to overcome that because I love food. You can put like a piece of like carrot cake in front of me and I'm going to struggle to not eat it. White chocolate macadamia nut cookies, I mean, you name it. Like, I have my cravings and the things that I enjoy for food. But I started to understand that, hey, if I have yeast overgrowth from brewing beer, I know that yeast eats sugar, turn it into alcohol. That's what I used to teach as a home brewer. And so I understood that, hey, if I have yeast growing in my gut, and this is a a bad kind of yeast. It's not like brewer's yeast, which is a good type of yeast. Brewer's yeast actually helps you produce vitamin B12, which is, one of the nutrients that you need to make your entire endocrine system work. Well, I know that, having this, I needed to take care of it. So one of the first things that I did was I went on a juice fast. And the idea behind going on a juice fast for me was that I was going to basically stop eating sugar. So my green juice was actually mostly greens, very, very little sugar. I'd put like maybe 1 or 2 green apples, which are not very sweet. And that's like in a liter kind of, in about a liter basically that I would make. And so it's very little sugar. And so by doing that, I did actually reduce my amount of, bad bacteria, yeast candida. It was actually when I created my first initial success story. And it was mostly because, at this point I was starting to get more energy. I was starting to finally lose weight and, start to see benefits from cleaning up my gut.